Everyone ignored the starving German shepherd. But when a baby stopped, staring with wide, innocent eyes, no one could have imagined what he'd do next. In that instant, a small gesture would teach everyone the meaning of compassion. The city sidewalk was alive, with noise, horns blaring, shoes scuffing across the concrete, people talking loudly into their phones. Everyone had somewhere to be, and no one had time to notice the broken creature pressed against the brick wall near the corner. The German shepherd sat with his head bowed low, his ribs etched into the thin canvas of his sides. His fur was patchy and dull, clinging in clumps to the sharp angles of his bones. One ear twitched whenever someone passed too close, but he didn't lift his eyes. He had learned long ago that people rarely meant kindness, that a group of teenagers walked by, their laughter sharp. One of them paused to snap a photo on her phone, muttering something about that ugly stray before she hurried on. No one stopped to offer water. No one wondered how long he'd been there, waiting for someone who would never cool me. Some simply stepped around him, disgusted in their eyes. Others never looked at all. He was as much a part of the street as the litter blown into the gutter, a sad fixture in a city that had decided he didn't matter. Hours passed, the shadows lengthening across the sidewalk. The dog's head sank lower with each passing minute, as if the weight of being unseen was finally too much to bear. It might have stayed that way forever, if not for the smallest soul on that busy street. Among the stream of legs and hurried footsteps, a tiny pair of shoes stopped right at the edge of the sidewalk. A baby no more than 18 months old stood with a plastic bottle clutched in his chubby hand, his round, blue eyes fixed on the German shepherd, with an expression no one else had shown that day. Wonder his mother was a few steps ahead, distracted by her phone and the bustle of pedestrians weaving around them. She didn't notice right away that her son wasn't toddling along behind her. The baby shifted his bottle to the other hand and took a cautious step forward. The dog didn't react, too beaten down by days of hunger and loneliness to lift his head. The baby's gaze softened. He looked from the animal to the bottle in his hand and back again, as if deciding what to do. Cool me on, sweetheart, his mother called over her shoulder, finally realizing he'd stopped. She gave the leash of the stroller a gentle tug, but the baby didn't move. Instead, he let his bottle slip from his fingers where it rolled, to stop a few inches from the dog's paw. The German shepherd flinched at the sound, but still didn't look up. The baby took another step. His mother's voice rose, anxious now, but he ignored her. To him, nothing else in the world existed but this sad, silent dog who needed someone to see him. The baby's small shoes tapped against the concrete as he closed the last bit of space between himself and the dog. His mother's heart leapt in her throat. She hurried forward, but something about the stillness of that moment made her pause just short of scooping him up. Around them, the busy sidewalk slowed. A woman pushing a shopping cart stopped and watched. A delivery driver set his box down on the curb, curiosity softening his frown. For the first time all day, the German shepherd wasn't invisible. The baby reached out a tentative hand. The dog's ears flattened, his body curling tighter into itself, as if he expected to be struck or shoot away. A few people called out warnings. Careful, that dog could bite. Ma'am, grab your kid. But the mother stood frozen, her breath caught between fear and something she couldn't quite name. She saw how her son's tiny hand didn't shake, how his wide eyes weren't afraid. The baby lowered himself into a clumsy crouch, his hand hovering inches from the matted fur. He didn't flinch when the dog let out a soft, weary growl. Instead, he looked into those sorrowful eyes and did something no one else had done all day, that he smiled. The German shepherd's growl faded into a thin, uncertain whine. His nose twitched as he finally lifted his head to see the child fully. For the first time in hours, the dog realized he was no longer alone, that a hush spread across the sidewalk as if the whole street had agreed to hold its breath. The baby leaned forward, his small hand trembling, with curiosity, not fear. Slowly he placed his palm against the German shepherd's dirty, sun-warmed fur. The dog froze. Every muscle went rigid as though bracing for pain. But instead of shove, or a harsh word, he felt only the warmth of a hand so tiny it barely spanned the space between his shoulders. Someone whispered, "Oh my God," voice cracking with something like awe. The baby's mother pressed her hand to her heart, torn between reaching for her child and watching this fragile miracle unfold. The German shepherd lifted his head, fully now, eyes locking on the child's face. For a moment, he simply stared, unblinking, as if he couldn't quite believe the gentleness was real that a tear tracked down the baby's round cheek. Maybe it was the way the dog looked at him, like he was the first person who had ever seen past the filth and fear. Maybe it was something older and deeper that neither of them had words for. The dog let out a shuddering sigh. His head dipped lower, pressing against the baby's knee with a kind of quiet surrender. That was when the crowd truly fell silent. Not a single phone camera lifted, not a single laugh dared to break the spell. In that instant, compassion became contagious. The baby shifted, his tiny legs wobbling as he sat down right there on the grimy sidewalk. He picked up the bottle he dropped earlier and held it out to the dog like an offering. The German shepherd sniffed it cautiously, his nose brushing the baby's chubby fingers. A soft whimper escaped his throat, the last defenses slipping away. Then, with heartbreaking trust, he laid his head in the baby's lap that a woman in the crowd pressed a hand to her mouth to. Stiflia sobi. No one moved to stop them. No one had the heart. The baby's mother sank to her knees beside her son, tears filling her eyes as she reached out to rest her hand on the dog's back. She felt the ragged bones beneath the filthy fur, and her throat tightened. "It's okay," she whispered, voice shaking. "You're okay now." The baby's free hand patted the shepherd's head and slow. Shepherd sniffed it cautiously, his nose brushing the baby's chubby fingers. A soft whimper escaped his throat, the last defenses slipping away. Then, with heartbreaking trust, he laid his head in the baby's lap that a woman in the crowd pressed a hand to her mouth to. Stiflia sobi. No one moved to stop them. No one had the heart. The baby's mother sank to her knees beside her son, tears filling her eyes as she reached out to rest her hand on the dog's back. She felt the ragged bones beneath the filthy fur, and her throat tightened. "It's okay," she whispered, voice shaking. "You're okay now." The baby's free hand patted the shepherd's head and slow. "Animals. If it's all right, I'd like to help him." The baby's mother looked up, her tears finally spilling over. "Please," she whispered. "He needs someone." The woman knelt, extending her hand slowly so the German shepherd could sniff her fingers. This time he didn't shrink away. He lifted his tired eyes to meet hers as though he already understood she was there to save him. Together they coaxed him to his feet. His legs were unsteady, but when the baby clapped his hands in encouragement, the shepherd took a step forward. Then, another. The woman slipped a soft slip, let over his neck. "We'll get him to a vet. Clean him up," she promised. She glanced at the baby with a tender smile. "You did something very brave today." The mother gathered her son into her arms, pressing a kiss to his hair. He looked over her shoulder, watching the dog walk toward the rescue Virginia as the shepherd was lifted inside. He turned back once. For the briefest moment, his gaze found the child's, and his tail gave a small, hopeful wag. The mother held her son close. In that instant, She knew he'd reminded the world of something it often forgot.